Now, this week's discussion video is going to be about female villains in Star Wars, and in particular about Captain Phasma and whether or not she can be saved. What do I mean by saved? Well, I don't know about you, but one of the more disappointing aspects of The Force Awakens, and certainly the most disappointing character, was Captain Phasma. In fact, my fiancé, who is a bit of a Troopers enthusiast, to put it mildly, was very excited to see this new character in action, not to mention to get a good female villain in a Star Wars movie. And I say movie because we do have Ventress from the Clone Wars, not to mention a few others from a few different places. But anyway, she was all aboard the Chrome Trooper hype train before the movie came out, and I would imagine she wasn't alone because Phasma was a big part of the advertising, and her helmeted head was as prominent on the merchandise as the likes of Rey, Finn, and so on. And I expected her to have a fairly significant role in the movie. Did I think she'd be a main character? Well, no, but I also didn't expect her to only have a handful of scenes, or that the most significant thing that this new menacing Chrome Trooper would do would be to betray the First Order and lower the shields, thus allowing the Resistance to ultimately blow up Starkiller Base. And I know what some of you are thinking right now. Thor, you need to read the Phasma book and the comics. It explains why she so quickly betrayed the First Order, that she's not exactly loyal to them like their brainwashed army of stormtroopers, but that she is a survivor who will do anything and everything it takes to save her own chromed behind. But come on, I think we all know the truth here. That book and those comics are all part of Operation Save Phasma's image, because instead of having our heroes find another way to take down the shields, like just blowing them up with all those explosives they had, they decided to have Phasma immediately fold like a piece of origami. I mean, they barely had to threaten her before she lowered those shields. And then, if the character hadn't been ruined enough by that, they went for the cheap laugh and yet another throwback to A New Hope and tossed her in a trash compactor. And as I've said before in other videos, and many others have said even before me, all they really had to do with this character to make her feel like a legitimate badass is to have her been the one that fought and beat down Finn on Takodana after the First Order attacked, instead of his old squad mate Nines, which is something they also probably decided upon after the fact when the internet fell in love with Traitor. And then, when Finn and Phasma meet again at the end of the movie, we understand Finn's animosity towards her a lot more, and we, and Phasma, might also find it more believable that Finn would really shoot her if he doesn't get those shields lowered. In fact, you could have had Han more or less holding him back from doing it and reminding him that they needed her. And finally, instead of making a joke out of the trash compactor, they could have still tossed her down in there, but pointed out that they were essentially leaving her there to die when the base blew up. And at that point, I think you have a pretty good rivalry between these two characters, and Phasma isn't reduced to just being the butt of a joke, and also one in need of a major image repair in the form of a book and a comic series. And that's not to say I didn't enjoy either the book or the comics. I'm just saying it's clear what they're meant to accomplish, because I do think they still want to make Phasma a serious threat and a villain. Which means I think she'll get the last laugh on Finn in The Last Jedi, before Finn ultimately gets the last laugh on her in Episode 9. However, there is another possibility entirely that this new backstory for Phasma, this survive-at-all-cost mentality, could lead to, and that is Phasma again betraying the First Order to the Resistance, or even flat out joining the Resistance. For all we know, that's exactly what's going to happen, and these new Executioner Stormtroopers are on the hunt for her because the truth has somehow been learned that she was the one who lowered the shields, though they probably are just looking for Finn. Either way though, I do think Phasma is going to have a slightly bigger role in The Last Jedi, and will be seen doing a lot more than just ordering a bunch of villagers executed, telling Finn to put his helmet back on, and then lowering the shields to allow a super weapon to be destroyed. But now I'm curious to hear what you think about the character of Phasma, if she'll have a bigger role, or if maybe the character's already been pretty much ruined for you and you don't even want her to show up, or maybe you've read the book and or comic and are excited to see what she does next. And then next weekend, I'll do a follow-up video where I delve into some of your comments on the matter. But before I go, there is one other topic I'd like to bring up and get your thoughts on, and I'll go much more in depth on it in the follow-up video next weekend. And that is the idea of Rey going to the dark side, and maybe even ultimately becoming the main villain of this new trilogy. And I know what a lot of you are immediately going to say. Disney and Lucasfilm will never let Rey turn to the dark side, and they've already said she's going to be this new role model or whatever. But for just a moment, toss all of that aside and ask yourself, if you were in charge at Lucasfilm and you could make the call, would you turn Rey to the dark side? Because to be honest with you here, I would. And not just because it would be so unexpected and shocking, but because I think Episode 7 laid the groundwork to make her a great villain. And I dare say she would be more memorable of a character if she becomes a villain rather than just stayed on the light side. After all, the most popular character in Star Wars is probably a villain, that being Darth Vader. And one of my biggest hopes for this new trilogy is to get a truly great, memorable, and I dare say legendary Star Wars character out of it, one on par with those from the original trilogy, because one thing I'm not sure the prequel trilogy managed to do, and I know some of you will want to argue against this, is create a truly iconic Star Wars character. Yes, it enhanced some that were introduced in the original trilogy, but it failed to create one of its own, with the closest thing to it maybe being Darth Maul, and only because he looked so damn cool and had so much potential, not because of what he actually did in the movies, or should I say, the one movie he was in. Well, that's all I've got for you this time, but now it's your turn to take to the comments and answer any or all of the questions I brought up this week. Is the character of Phasma already ruined? Would you turn Rey to the dark side? And because I know some of you will bring it up anyway, do you think there is a truly iconic character that originated in the prequels? One that even the average person on the streets would know and easily recognize. So let me know in the comments below, and let's talk some Star Wars. And next weekend, I'll put up a follow-up video including your responses to these questions. But for now, thanks for watching.